do to make sure that. Okay, so it's recording here. Let me just start the screen recording to make sure everything goes well. So tab audio, yep, microphone. All right, and we're live. How's it going, man?
It's going pretty good. How with yourself?
It's going pretty good. It's going pretty good. So, what's it like being the king of steroids?
I don't know if I'm the king. I might throw Sam Sulik on that, or maybe Andrew Eubanks. But I did have someone call me Steroid Boy, which felt pretty weird. Other than that, it feels a little painful, specifically in the back area.
What about the Trend Monster?
The Tren Monster, I haven't heard that one. Probably because I'm not taking Tren.
What are you taking?
Again? I take D-ball and then some other things that are necessary to go with D-ball. Tren will. Can I swear? Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. I don't care.
Tren will fuck you up. Basically, it's really bad. The D-ball's not better. I don't condone either, but well, no, it is slightly. I don't want anyone thinking that you should do either, but D-ball is slightly better. Yeah.
Yeah, but comparatively speaking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So for the audience that doesn't know who you are, I'm sure there's a lot of people that do, that have heard vaguely about you, because I knew of your existence from a YouTube short where it was I think you've probably seen it too, where the guy's like explaining, like, you know who I'm talking about, the guy that's like obsessed with John Edwards. You don't know the guy I'm talking about?
I don't know.
Spanish guy.
I'm not sure. I've seen a few people.
But there was a guy who made a video about you. He was like saying, "Oh yeah, this Instagram user or this TikToker or whatever started using steroids. Like, this is something you should never do. Do not try this at home."
You're kind of preaching to the choir. There's quite a few of those guys.
Who's the biggest one you're aware of?
The biggest one I'm aware of is More Plates, More Dates.
Yeah, Derek would definitely make a video about you.
Yeah, we had a call and he wanted to see what I was doing, so we ran some tests and he got them, and he basically called me a dumbass, but ultimately he was like, "It's your body, man." And yeah, he's the biggest I know of.
Getting called a dumbass by Derek from More Plates Dates has gotta hurt.
No, it's not. Yes, it did hurt. Sorry.
It's either gonna be a great feeling or a terrible feeling, depending on how you take it.
I was happy for him to basically tell me, like, he basically wished me luck, but kind of with a bit of a side eye, sort of like, "Hey, you're being a little silly here." And then I was like, maybe a little bit silly, yeah.
I feel like that's the fitness influencer equivalent of getting on America's funniest home videos. That's
wow, an America's Funniest Home Videos reference. That's deep cut. I'm wondering how many people are gonna recognize that one.
I'm sure whoever lived long enough to see Full House.
Full. Did you just say Full House?
Yeah, Bob Saget.
Oh my gosh, what are these? How old are you, man? Like,
yes. How old do you think I am?
You look like maybe 19.
Nah, 3 years younger. 3 years younger.
Oh wow. Okay, so 16.
Yeah, I'm 16. Yeah.
Wow. All right.
So I completely got off track. So for the audience that doesn't know who you are, for the people in the audience that want to know who you are, who are you? What did you do?
My name is Jonathan Joshua James, and I started the gym in tandem with starting steroids, and kind of to see how that would affect your body, because everyone that starts steroids builds a base first, which is what you should do if you do steroids. I understand that what I'm doing is it's not extremely smart, but I'm in a unique position where I'm able to do it extremely safely and very professionally. And so I'm basically just trying that out. And then 4 months in, I made an account to share my findings. And then I had a lot of people call me a dumbass. And then some people say you should take more, which I didn't. I tried to not listen to either of them.
And then I DM'd you on that account.
And then you DM'd me saying, "Do you want to interview?" And I
Yeah.
said, "Well, I'm not doing anything on this wonderful Sunday night, so why not?"
Yeah. And then we had to schedule it like a month in advance, like over and over.
Yeah, that's my bad.
Stuff happens. No.
Yeah, look, sometimes you're thrown up in your sleep, and sometimes you're scheduling a meeting while you're sick.
Wait, so were you sick because of the steroids, or are you just sick because you're sick?
So I was sick before I started doing steroids again, and hopped back on after I took a break for like a month and a half because I wanted to. Everyone was saying that I would get addicted, and I just wanted to see what it felt like to stop doing them. And I actually felt fine. It was actually, I didn't realize how much pain they put me in, but ultimately, I have like 7 more months where I can do them safely and professionally. So I'm gonna do that, and it got delayed because I got pretty sick. And then I started getting better, and then I hopped back on, went to the gym, went really hard. And then immediately after the gym, I felt terrible because I was going till failure on leg day, and on arms, and yeah, it just made me feel like shit. And so I've just been sleeping a ton and eating not as much as I should.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: what's like the biggest lesson you've learned so far? Like, would you say not to do steroids, or because if you take a guy like Derek from More Plays More Dates, generally speaking, like from like I'm just saying, like the people that you've interviewed and the people that have done them, like Greg Doucette, they're all generally kind of on the same boat of saying, don't do steroids. You are mentally handicapped if you do so. Like there's all these different things, right? So from your stance, right, for the most part, would you say don't do them under certain circumstances?
Yeah, so I would say don't do them, but that's not the biggest thing that I learned. I mean, I think most people are gonna come to the conclusion of like don't do steroids, right? It's like don't do drugs, right? You shouldn't do drugs, but ultimately, at some point, if someone wants to smoke a joint, they're going to, right? And I think the biggest thing that I've learned since doing this is actually irrelevant to the steroids, and it's that the gym is, I mean, it's really life changing. I mean, you see people on social media go from 110 pounds soaking wet to 200, and they look insane, right? And sure, a lot of those people on steroids, but you look at them and you think, oh well, that's on social media, that's not real. And then you do it for yourself, and you see your own body change, and that's like, whoa, it's pretty cool. Plus, you need a lot of discipline for it. You gotta change your diet. I mean, it's life changing. I think everyone should do the gym.
Let me ask you this: because you did speak to Derek from Workplace More Dates, so that makes me wonder, right? How many like influencers and like people in the fitness, like this, like bodybuilding, like fitness type community, right? Because the fitness community is very broad, but you kind of like belong to the niche of like Derek from More Plates More Dates, Greg Doucette, like Sam Sulek type of people. So out of all these, like how many have you actually spoken to, and like what have you learned from some of them?
So I've only sorry, I've only spoken to Mr. Derek, and as far as like reaching out to other people and interviewing with them and talking with them, I kind of feel like for the most part they wouldn't like what I'm doing, and which kind of is a bummer because ever since I've gotten into the gym, I've found so many like really cool people that I like, like Sam Sulek, right? He's the guy that made me realize that you can make YouTube videos that aren't insanely edited like Jesse James West, right? You can just make a video journal, and so he's the reason I started doing that. But I've only really spoken to More Plates, More Dates.
Well, you kind of blew up a bit, so like not to crazy proportions where every person knows of you as like this bodybuilder type person, but it's enough to where I was aware of you, right? Like just from YouTube shorts, and then one day I came across your Instagram, and I'm like, this is the guy, right? And I recognize who you are, right? Then again, I just have an extremely good memory, so what's that been like of just all of a sudden becoming like semi known on the internet, like 20,000 followers on Instagram, TikToks made about you, shorts, everything.
Um, yeah, it's weird. I mean, it's like I got recognized at a gym that I sometimes go to on leg day. They have a hack squat machine that I really like. And I got recognized there, and this guy comes up to me and he like taps me on the shoulder. And I'm like, "Hey man." He's like, "Are you John Joshua James?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Is your back real?" I was like, "That's a weird question." And it's been really weird sort of having so many strangers like look at my back and be like, "Oh, look at that," you know? Um, but ultimately, I mean, I think it's a unique experience, you know, it's pretty cool. But I think there's a lot of people that I worry, which makes me a little like bummed out sometimes because people get really concerned for me and are, you know, I've gotten so many DMs of whole paragraphs, very, very like caring stuff telling me to stop, but ultimately, you know, it's like my life and I'm not going to. So that part is a little bummer because I wish people wouldn't worry about me.
So just to clarify, you don't do like, and this is part of the paragraph thing, right? Where people are begging you to stop, calling you stupid, more than negative attention. You're not doing steroids anymore?
No, so I took a break because everyone was like, "You're going to be addicted," and then I was like, "Oh, who knows? Maybe you know that is something to think about for sure." So I stopped, see what I felt like, and ultimately I was fine. I meant to take a break for a month, and I ended up taking it quite a bit longer. Um, and I don't really consider the people that are like telling me to stop negative attention. You know, I mean, I think it's very sweet. I wish it wouldn't. You know, I mean, there's a lot of people that are telling me to like, you know, Minecraft myself, which you know, fair enough.
What does your mom think?
she she does not know. So
Probably for the best.
yeah,
So
it's
I won't tell her. Don't worry.
no, I appreciate that. Thank you.
No.
I'm hoping. I'm actually more worried that you're able to contact my mother. That would be more of a concern. So.
Yeah. Well, let me. Do any of your like close friends know?
Yeah. So my brother is he's a extreme bodybuilder, and then my other brother is as well, and then my best friend and his dad used to be a Mr. Olympia, and so those are the four people that get to know, and my girlfriend.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if you didn't do steroids in that case. Wait,
Well, I mean, they they,
I mean, like,
they 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 are telling me not to. Like they don't encourage it, by the way. But it's sort of like you know, like when you're 16 and your brother's like, "Here, I will like if you're gonna smoke weed at some point, do it at my house. You know, don't do it anywhere else. I want you to be safe." That sort of thing.
you know, when all these other bodybuilders are telling you don't do steroids, you know, it kind of reminds me of this quote that this general once said that those who have never been in war, what's it called, promote it very heavily,
Yeah,
something like that. And those who have never, I'm sorry, those who have been through war, like, are totally against the idea. It was something like that, right?
yeah,
I would say that's basically the same thing because everybody who does steroids ends up going, don't do steroids. And
yeah,
everybody who doesn't do steroids, it's like, man, if only I could, if only I did,
yeah.
right? So let me ask you this: if you like, what actually inspired you to do this? So what like was the motive? Because I'm one of those people that's really like into learning about biology and fitness and everything I see about steroids that it'll mess up your it'll mess up your testosterone. You'll have to go on TRT for the rest of your life. All of your endocrinology is just gone. You know, your penis is like this. You know, your balls are like this. All of this stuff. So, what, in spite of all of this, like these people saying don't do it, did you see yourself as like a human guinea pig, or like what was the deal?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a little less morbid than a human guinea pig. But I kind of I mean, you see people like the Liver King, right? Who's just looks insane, you know, like abs for days even while slouching, right? And all these, you know, what's his name? David Lade, you know, these beautiful physiques, Mike O'Hearn, and all of them started steroids after they had a base to work with, right? Uh, and I thought that if you have the ability to lift big weights already, then once you do steroids, the big weightlifting will help even more, right? And excuse me, I wanted to see what would happen if you had no base and then did them and see, excuse me, see what the growth would be like, right? And so I've noticed that, I mean, obviously the growth is increased an insane amount, but if you took me who was working out starting with steroids for 3 months and then went on steroids, I would have grown more than starting on steroids. Well, or in the amount of time that I was doing steroids, I would have grown more with more of a base. And that was kind of interesting to see. And then once I did that, I wanted to see more things, right? So ever since I've been taking steroids, I have become way less limber, right? Which I actually think is just attributed to gaining so much fat and muscle and just more on my body. I can't even touch my toes. I'm like a foot away from touching my toes. And I would really like to try other things. Like I would like to try calisthenics for a few months, see how steroids affect that, and basically just experiment things. So I guess kind of like a human guinea pig, but um, I'm being extremely safe. You know, I have doctor checkups every 2 weeks. I have, well, I don't want to say what I'm doing because I don't want people thinking that there's a safe way to do steroids, right? Like you can be safer than the worst way to do steroids, but ultimately steroids are dangerous and you shouldn't do them.
I think that you have a story that more people should genuinely hear because you're doing things, you know, with a level of courage that the average person doesn't, right? And a level of almost like daredevilness to where you're actually doing the research, right, on yourself and you're documenting it, right? And you're doing it in a way where you're not being an idiot and you're not doing it just for the hell of it to see what's happening, right? You're doing it like for legitimate research purposes, it seems. Like,
I mean, maybe call it a mix. You know, I appreciate that. I don't know that I can take all that credit because, like, I don't need to do this, right? I don't know that I'm like bettering science by doing this. It is, I mean, call it morbid curiosity, right? Like, I'm curious what'll happen, and as long as I'm safe, then I'm gonna keep going until the 7 months are up, right? Uh, Once those 7 months are up, I plan on having like I'm working on these Google Docs that have just been all my blood work, all my cholesterol, all my everything for every 2 weeks since I started, just to like show people here's what it does to your body, right? And hopefully that will provide some sort of like knowledge. But I'm you know I'm not arrogant enough to say that I'm doing the world a service, right? This is a very like self-interested activity.
yeah, you're not the Liver King, Brian Johnson. Yeah.
I'm no,
Who claims that ab plants will prevent people from committing suicide. So I
yeah,
don't.
I seldomly am putting balls in my mouth. So we're pretty different, me and that guy. So
Yeah. Well, at least you're very honest about it. Because at least you're not trying to sell a product.
no, I mean, what would I have to sell? Anything that I would sell
You can have
would.
your own G fuel.
I
That's
don't
what I
think
would do.
I don't think I've had a few sponsors reach out to me. And I haven't taken them because ultimately, like, I don't think I would be good for their brand. I mean, could you imagine I am promoting G Fuel and, hey, drink, blueberry starburst or whatever, and then someone goes to my page and sees my back and is like, oh fuck, no shot, I'm drinking that. I don't know. I think it would be a bad idea for companies, and I don't know why they keep reaching out.
Look, man, I'm going to teach you a life lesson. When somebody offers you 10 grand, you take the 10 grand. You don't ask any questions.
I mean, no one's offered 10 grand. Maybe if they offered 10 grand, I'd be a little less courteous, but no one's offered that much. Actually, there has been a company that's offered a lot. I won't say how much, but it was a vape company. And I'm not gonna do that. So I turned them down.
Do you vape? Or
No, I'm pretty against vaping, which I know is it. it's very hypocritical for me to be so against anything pretty much that damages your body. But I'm pretty strict on no caffeine, no drinking, no vaping, no smoking.
Well, I can actually I can kind of understand that. I can kind of respect that because, nicotine. There's arguably speaking, there's really no like physical benefit to like vaping. There's like no legitimate benefit to, but like with steroids, at least you could say that you're building muscle, you're like looking good, right? So,
I mean,
like you know what I'm saying. Like at least then I could kind of understand, but like with vaping,
sure. I mean, it's still pretty like selfish, or not selfish. It's still you're damaging your body you're taking the short term for the long term. Like this may affect my health a bit in the future. I'm doing all that I can to make sure it doesn't. But it's who knows? I don't know. I don't know what vaping does to you exactly, but I'm sure it's not good.
Apparently, it causes your lungs to collapse, from what I've heard.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
That's pretty terrible.
Yeah.
Have you ever considered taking any other steroids, like changing them out, or?
I don't have the opportunity to, so no, not really. I've done the most research into D-ball, and that's the one that I have like clean, safe access to, allegedly. So no.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can be honest with me. I won't tell on you.
No, I sure, yeah. Yeah, no, I can't. I don't have. I mean, I'm sure I could get other steroids. I will say probably the most surprising thing to come from this is a lot of we'll call them influencers, fitness influencers, have offered me steroids and also asked what steroids that they should do, which is crazy because I feel like huh?
I was gonna say, when you say influencers, do you mean like how many like you don't have to say names, but like how many followers are we talking here? Like,
well, yeah, I mean, look, I'm not talking about like the trend twins of the world. I mean, they're never mind. But no, I mean, like sub 100K followers. So no one crazy, but people that are not saying that they're unnatural. So it's, I mean, it kind of sucks.
It's liver kings of the world. The liver kings.
Yeah, the small liver kings, the liver princes of the world. Yeah. And it does kind of suck. I think it's probably the worst part of the fitness community is there's so many people that are not natural and don't say it. It's a lot. I mean, it's no matter how much you think it is, it's more.
So, okay, well, you know who's gonna love to hear that statistic? My dad. Now, you don't understand this because my dad, right? He's the king of working out. He works out every day, goes to the gym every day, and he's very healthy for, I'm not gonna say his age, but how old he is. And he loves to say one thing. He loves to go, dude, do you know how much juice that guy's on? Every time he sees somebody, he's like, dude, do you know how much juice that guy's on? So I'm gonna make sure to share that. He's gonna love this interview. So I'm gonna.
Hey, your dad is my exact demographic, so I'm so happy that I'm appealing to him.
He's gonna cry of joy when he sees this interview. No, I'm kidding. But so yeah, so you get a lot of liars like that you see.
I get more than I'd like, yeah.
Like if you had to put a number on how many DMs you've gotten from like 10K plus followers, like accounts that are claiming to be natural, how many would it be?
Maybe, I don't know. I feel weird saying. Probably maybe more than 50.
That's kind of sad.
Yeah, it's not great.
So wait, so when these people, they're just like, hey, dude, do you know what I should take?
Yeah, it's kind of like, hey, what do I need? Hey, I can get you some. Hey, you should take this instead. That sort of thing. Yeah, which is, I always have a similar response of, just don't do steroids. I typically like to, I think at the start, like people would DM me stuff like, "Oh, you're a dumb guy. Don't do that, dumb man." And I used to be like, "Well, actually, I'm being pretty, and tried to explain myself." But I kind of just started messing around with them and like just making jokes. But whenever someone is asking about steroids, I try to be very like, please don't do steroids. Like a lot of people will tell me, "Hey, I'm starting steroids tomorrow. What can I do?" And I just tell them, just don't do it. But not that it does anything really.
So it's kind of ironic that your account, in a way, it's kind of like how cigarette companies will put like "don't smoke cigarettes" and then they'll put like a picture of someone's lungs on the cigarette box.
Yeah,
and people will still buy the pack of cigarettes.
Yeah, it is insane. Yeah, because even after my first video, which was, I mean, my back was at its worst. I mean, it looked so terrible. Still, people were DMing me, "Hey, where do I get steroids?" I was just like, dude, you can't be this dense, man. I mean, I think there was a part of me that thought like maybe I could be like an arbiter of like doom. Of like, hey, please don't do this. This can happen. Obviously, you can do things to prevent it, and that's what I'm working on now. But people didn't care. They just wanted to get big.
So generally, a lot of what you learned is that people are very deceitful and also very stupid.
I mean, I don't like to think about people so negatively. I think they're being misguided by a bunch of people that are lying about being natural, and they see those people and they want to be like them. And it's like, I mean, shit, if I was 16 and I saw Mike O'Hearn, right, claiming he's natural, I'm like, well, I want to look like he looks like the Superman that's in real life. And then, you work out for 10 years and you look nothing like him. I'd probably want to take steroids too,
You sound exactly like both my dad and my best friend's brother.
I'm so happy. That's wonderful.
Because my dad says this to me all the time. He's like, dude, I've been working out for 35 years. I don't look like that. How could I, how could this guy not be on roids?
Yeah.
You sound exactly like him. So I guess there's something to it.
Yeah.
So when somebody says to you, "Hey man," because even at the gym, like people don't recognize you, right? Because I've had this conversation with like my best friend's brother, people I know, where it's like, you see somebody that's just really, really doing good on a certain steroid, like Anavar, for example, right? And that's when we like talk about or just test, like, or HGH. We're like, dude, this guy is doing so good and looks so good on this steroid. So when you hear like a conversation like that, where it's like, oh, it's so tempting, what do you say? Like, do you ever say anything to that person or like?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like, I mean, I haven't been in that. Typically, people aren't like, "Oh man, I wish," like most people are just like, I'm going to, right? But in that situation, I'd probably say like, ultimately it's your life, so do what you like. But think about the costs, I mean, it may cost you a bit of money depending on how you get it. It's also in some places illegal depending on what you do. And also it could kill you. I mean, you look at Rich Piana, or it could fuck up your mental really hard. Look at David Lade, yeah, I mean, everything comes at a cost. People will do what they want, but I would say from my personal experience, you should not do it pretty much under any circumstances. It's very vain. Like it doesn't really provide much.
So what? And this is more of like the details itself of what you were doing. So, like day one, you work out. Like what? Like what's the doses? Like what? Like what's exactly like the actual stuff that you're taking?
So I don't like to say anything exact, right? Or even like my mixture, mixture, because I don't want people doing it thinking that it's like a safe way to do it, or even people thinking, okay, I'll do less than that because then I won't get back any. Because truth is, I don't do a ton. I do a very reasonable, safe amount. But with all the people that have already, I would have liked to start early on. I was going to say my dosage, but so many people just wanted to know. And then they would ask in the context of saying, I'm going to start. And I was like, okay, I probably should not say. So I think maybe at the end of the channel, I'll say, but with a huge litany of, health problems that comes from doing steroids, and basically have the biggest PSA ever, pretty much.
So you, and I also saw this on your Instagram story. You have a YouTube channel, right?
Yep, I just started posting long form videos.
I'll make sure
2 days ago.
Yeah, when this goes up, I'll make sure to tag you on Instagram and like your
Appreciate
channel and stuff. Yeah. Well, I mean, I want people to hear your story and not to do roids, especially a lot of the people that I know. Because
Yeah.
well, yeah, because like I said, I'm 16, so I go like into school, and then even like my friends, like they're not going to, but it's like everyone's like, oh, if only I did steroids, like, oh, if only I looked like that, like, oh, it's so tempting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or it's like, oh yeah, it would get me so strong, or like joking, right? In passing, like even I say that, it's like, oh, if only I did trend, like then I would look like that.
Sure.
That's like a really extreme thing to say, but like, it's hard to not look at Arnold Schwarzenegger or like, these, or Jesse James West, and be like, oh, steroids, nah, terrible, because you see the effects like very directly.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, to Jesse James West's credit, I think it's possible. He's natural.
Right. Yeah.
Arnold, obviously not. Self-proclaimed not. But yeah, I mean, it's tempting. I think it's fine to joke about. I mean, pretty much anything's fine to joke about if it's funny enough. But if there's like an inkling of like, oh, maybe I should do trend in there, then yeah, I probably shouldn't joke about it, because ultimately,
well, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, it's fine.
I can't hear you.
I said I have to make that a note. So let me ask you this. So if you had to pick any type of, type of fitness other than bodybuilding, right? Which is what it seems like you did, right? Then what other type of fitness would you go into?
Rock climbing, or well, it's basically the same thing. Rock climbing and calisthenics, for sure. I think they're just really fun. I think I don't work out forearms. Instead, I just go rock climbing, and that, I mean, it's just a really great and fun way to work out forearms, and it also works out your fingers, which is a neat muscle that, well, your fingers aren't literally. Yeah. Short answer: calisthenics and rock climbing, for sure.
So let me ask you this: can you do a pull up?
Yeah, of course.
Well, I don't know. You said you weren't limber, so like.
I'm sorry. I meant like stretchy. Like I can't like touch my toes or like put my feet behind my head, right? But I mean, I'm pretty good at rock climbing, and in rock climbing, you kind of have to be able to do like a lot of chin-ups,
If you could have one fitness ability, right, and like people can work towards and stuff, what would it be? This could be like benching 405, doing a split, anything like.
Sure. Probably a one-handed muscle up, because that would make me a lot better at rock climbing. I have a friend that is just so much better than me at it, but he's trained specifically for it. He's not a bodybuilder, and he's just so much better than me, and it sucks, and I would love to be better than him. But I am so far from it.
You just reminded me. So Bradley Martin, right? The trend king himself. I don't know what he's on. I'm just saying.
Yeah, he's big.
Yeah, the big boy Bradley himself, right?
Sure.
So there's a meme where he goes, "But I'm 260 though, right?" And it's like, what do you think of that? Do you think that Bradley Martin could actually realistically beat somebody in a fight just because he's 260?
Oh, I thought you were asking about rock climbing. I mean, ultimately in fighting, technique is technique, right? I mean, but depending on the martial art, size does kind of overwhelm, right? Like you take something like jujitsu, or specifically Brazilian jiu-jitsu, that's kind of just it's a bit of a silly sport. It's very technical, grappling and chokeholds and arm bars and all the above. If you're big enough and your neck is the size of their legs, you're probably going to just beat them outright. I mean, they're not going to be able to get you on the floor. And if they do, you're probably on top of them, crushing them. So I think ultimately he'll probably win most fights, but I mean, he's not going to beat the best MMA fighter. Like he's not going to beat, I'm forgetting his name. Is I don't know. So
Israel Adesanya.
That's the guy. Yeah, he's not beating him.
That's fair. All right. That was a weird final question, but this is all the time we had. So I appreciate you coming on. We'll talk a little bit after the show. But yeah, I loved having you on, and see you, man. Have a good one.
Sounds good. See you, man.
And I'll talk after the show, okay? Just clarify.
That's good.
Cut the recording, then we'll talk, all right?
Sounds good. I appreciate you.